Welcome. This is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed minor variance respecting 3121 Old Dexter Line in the municipality of Central Elgin. Does any member of the committee have a disclosure of interest concerning this proposal? Seeing none. Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting, please?
Mr. Chair, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 60 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies. On February 12th, 2024, notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online, Ms. Leach?
Mr. Chair, I don't see any online attendees at this time.
The applicant or agent is in attendance. Please come forward to the podium and explain the application. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions on the proposal?
Mr. Chair, I have not.
Questions from the public in the gallery or online? Seeing none, do any members of council have any questions? Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. Is the committee prepared to make a decision? If I could call the vote, please. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Those wanting to be notified of the committee's decision on any application should email Delaney Leach indicating which public meeting they wish to be notified on and provide their name and address. Those who don't have access to a computer and wish to be notified should call Delaney Leach at 519-631-4860 extension 286 and provide the same information. This public meeting is adjourned at 6:12. This public meeting is required by the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed minor variance respecting 43070 Gentry Lane in the municipality of Central Elgin. Does any member of the committee have a disclosure of interest concerning this proposal? Seeing none. Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting, please?
Mr. Chair, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 60 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on February 12th, 2024. Notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff, and notice was also posted to the municipal website.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. If the applicant or agent is in attendance, please come forward to the podium and explain the application. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's just an application for a minor variance. It says in the application that the variance, the bylaw says that no part of any dwelling shall be more than 30 meters from any street lot line. And the addition is a little beyond that, so it requires, that's why the variance was required. I think everything else is pretty well clear in the application.
Thank you. Ms. Leach, do we have anyone online with respect to questions?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe there are any virtual attendees.
Thank you. Have you received any written submissions on the proposal?
Mr. Chair, I have not.
Does any member of council have a question? Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. Committee prepared to make its decision. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Those wanting to be notified of the committee's decision on any application should email Delaney Leach indicating which public meeting they wish to be notified on, provide their name and address. Those who do not have access to a computer may call Ms. Leach at 519-631-4860, extension 286. This public meeting is adjourned at 6:22. Thank you. This is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment respecting Plan 33M658, Block 33, Belmont. Does any member of council have a disclosure of interest concerning this proposal? Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting, please?
Mr. Mayor, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 120 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on November 21st, or on January 31st, my apologies, 2024. Notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff, and notice was also posted to the municipal website.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Mr. McClure, planner, is here to present and explain the proposed zoning bylaw. Sir?
Thank you, Mayor Sloan. As has been provided, this is a public meeting to present the draft amendment for Block 33 for Plan 33M 658. So as can be seen on the screen, the subject lands are northeast or the northeast corner of Belmont Road and Robin Ridge Drive. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would permit the construction of a 16-unit residential development comprised of two-story buildings. Is to note that it will be subject to site plan control. And just for, I guess, council's reference to the applicant and some members of the public are in attendance today to I guess, speak to or ask questions. So just for the purposes of people in attendance and online, the proposed amendment would be supporting this draft site plan that was submitted with the application. So as you can kind of see, a driveway and parking area coming off of Robin Ridge Drive with the two-story, 8-unit residential dwellings, apartments in the northeast corner of the property. And again, this is, again, preliminary site plans subject to change, but to give a general idea of what's being proposed. So the first part of the amendment itself is the repealing of bylaw 1625. As part of that, back in 2013, a zoning bylaw amendment was approved for this property to permit a church. It has since been, as part of this, it would be repealing that and moving forward with a residential residential zone consistent with the designation on the property. Part two of the amendment would then introduce schedule to the bylaw being Schedule I, and designate the area on that schedule in heavy solid lines as RM1-4, and that schedule being B6. So as noted on the screen, that's the site-specific schedule. And then the second or third part of the amendment itself would be introducing a new special zone to that multiple residential section of the bylaw, outlining that the area affected by this zone is RM1-4 on Schedule B6, providing that the minimum lot area is 5,800 square meters, minimum lot frontage is 50 meters, the minimum front yard being front yard setback being 55 meters, side yard setback being 6 meters from the interior side yard and 23 meters from the exterior side yard. The county of Elgin does have a specific setback from the center line of the Belmont Road. So to respect that, it's 26 meters. Minimum building height provided as 9 meters, rear yard being 4.5 meters. And when we're looking at rear yard, it's the northerly lot line just for purposes of the amendment. Maximum coverage being 20%. The site plan itself allows for roughly, I think 13 to 14% coverage. The additional coverage requirement here would be to account for any, say, amenity areas or structures that may be requested through the site plan process. Maximum number of dwelling units being 16 per lot as per the request. Parking spaces being 20, and then exceptions to the general provisions of that zone to allow for what's being proposed through this amendment. And then in anticipation of eventual consolidation of the bylaw, Schedule 2 is introduced to this bylaw being Schedule B, which includes all the amendments that have occurred to date, including this amendment, which can be seen on the screen here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions on the proposal, please?
Mr. Mayor, correspondence has been received from John Card, Marilyn Crossley, Dan McMillan, the Board of Directors for the Middlesex Vacant Land Condominium Corporation, and Dawn Titchener. Concerns include the Moloch container and mailbox placement, density, rear yard setback, site plan, drainage, sanitary sewer connection, proximity to the property line, and transportation impacts.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Ms. Leach, do we have people online that wish to speak to this?
If any virtual attendees looking to speak to the application could please unmute themselves, that would be great.
And then I'll speak to those in the gallery afterwards.
Mr. Mayor, I believe we have no virtual attendees.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak? If you'd come forward, please. If you'd come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and just press the button for the red light to come on, sir. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Ludi Almeida, and I'm representing the Middlesex Vacant Land Condo 821. We abut the proposed development directly to the east. We have submitted our written documentation, but wanted to address two critical issues that we feel need to be addressed, and that is one of drainage. We have a north-south ditch that runs into the Turner Drain, and that is always subject to flooding and overflowing during heavy rains. And in fact, it has caused numerous insurance claims by one of the homeowners. And what we're suggesting is that a relook be done on the drainage plan to divert, instead of diverting the majority of the drainage into the Turner Drain, to divert it back into the engineered sewer drain that's existing. So that is one of our concerns. The second concern is more of a question that we have, and that has to do with the sanitary connection. We are under the understanding that we as condo own the sanitary that runs through our condo complex. The connection for the new development goes into our sanitary. If that is the case, there's been no discussions held with us about being able to connect an additional 16 units through the sanitary at SAMH into the ones that are in our complex. So if we don't own it, we need to know that we don't own it, and we will stop maintaining it. But if we do own it, then that discussion has never taken place with the board. And that is our concerns.
Thank you, sir. Just like I asked, is there anyone else in the gallery that wishes to speak before I ask? Sir, come on up. Again, if you could just state your name and turn you've got it half down. So if you could just state your name, please. Thank you.
My name's Kevin Mardell. I'm here on behalf of my mother-in-law, Marilyn Crossley, who lives at Unit 18, 132 Robin Ridge Drive. The significance of that address is it's the house immediately adjacent to one of the proposed apartment buildings. Her home is one that has flooded on 2 occasions, resulting in 2 insurance claims in excess of $50,000 in total. Whenever it rains, there's a huge inflow of water into her sump pump. The issue is that immediately north to her home and the proposed development, there's a large field that slopes towards her property. And so whenever it rains, particularly with the spring runoff, there's a large amount of water sort of flows down to that area. Her house basically stops that water. It has to be diverted around the house and down this ditch that was previously referred to. The other concern is that there is a farm drain that was originally in place and I believe has been rerouted when the existing condo development was built. That farm drain now sits exactly where these proposed apartment buildings are going to be built. So if that farm drain is disrupted during that construction, we have significant concerns that that will increase the water flow across the field and around my mother-in-law's home, resulting in further risk to flooding. I note in the drainage plans and grading notes and so on, item 1 on one of the documents says existing drainage of abutting lands is not to be disturbed. And yet there's absolutely no mention in the drainage plans or anything else of this farm drain that is going to get ripped up when this building is built. So, we have no objection to the principles of building the apartment building. We all know that we're in need of affordable housing, et cetera, but it's very important to me and to my mother-in-law and to other condo owners that these drainage issues are addressed. And I've provided a written submission with the details of that. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, my name is Dan Carroll, 149 Plymouth Court in Belmont. My only concern, and I apologize, we've been away for a month and just found out about this meeting and the whole project today. So I'm not as up to date as I would like to be. But my concern would be the parking. With 16 units and 20 parking spaces, does that allow for visitor parking? And these days, when most family units have 2 working parents and therefore often 2 cars, would 20 parking spaces be enough for this development? That'd be my only concern.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Is there anyone else in the gallery that wishes to speak? Mr. McClure?
Thank you, Mayor Sloan. I guess I can speak to some of those questions. I know the applicant and their agent is in attendance if there's something more specific. But with respect to the drainage and sanitary, I guess I can leave that up to other staff in the room. But ultimately, the application materials that were submitted, staff did not have concerns with respect from, I guess, the broad principle of use that what's being proposed could be accommodated on the property through the site plan control process. The particular details of the design and that can be kind of, I guess, more fleshed out. But yes, as has been in the past, any sort of site grading and drainage would need to be accommodated or accounted for in the plan. That would deal with also some of the flooding concerns. I'm not too sure if some of those things would be addressed through that process or could be resolved through some of those processes. But again, I can leave that to other staff in the room. And then with respect to the 20 parking spaces, that reflects the minimum requirements in the bylaw. But as part of the original proposal and what was shown as on the screen, I believe 27 parking spaces were provided. So ultimately, the area and the site itself can accommodate more parking spaces. I guess it would just come down to the types of units and that the applicant is looking to provide and whether or not they would like to provide more than the minimum requirements for parking. But again, staff did not have any concerns with the traffic information that was prepared, nor did the county staff, being that it abuts a county road.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? Mr. Brooks, did you wish to speak, sir?
Thank you, Mayor Sloan. I can speak to the sanitary, specifically the sanitary issue. It looks like the design of the original condo development did contemplate a connection of this property through the condo development. However, at this point in time, staff don't know what the legality of a connection through that condo property is. That will be all flushed out through the site plan process, as well as specific concerns relating to drainage and drainage issues.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Any member questions from council? Councillor Halpin, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sloan, I guess to whichever staff member feels they could best handle this. I know that Belmont is contemplating a lot of drainage work with the upcoming school. Will that do anything that you can think of that will either help or hinder the build situation here?
Mr. Brooks, please.
Through you, Mayor Sloan, the drainage work being contemplated at the school is in a different watershed than this rests in, so it'll have no impact on this development.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Counselor Watson.
Through you, Mayor, and I'm not sure who this goes to, but how at one point can it be zoned for a church? Did we get less religious out there? Is this just a backwards way to get zoning for a multi-unit building going forward? And my other question is, I don't want to really do anything if we're screwing up people's backyards with extra water. So I'd like to ask our admin here to make sure that this man's drainage of his mother-in-law's place is well taken care of before we move on anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Counselor Watson. I'm going to give Mr. McClure an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sloan, through to Councillor Watson. No, so the essentially institutional uses which church would fall under are permitted within residential zones and designations. So, or residential designations. At the time of the Robin Ridge subdivision, this block was created as a residential block. And through, I guess, interest at that time from a specific church in the area, they contemplated relocating their congregation to that block. In 2013, they went through the process to have it rezoned for a new church. That subsequently never happened. So now, market changes and everything else, they're going forward to it, the original intent with the designation on the property to allow for a residential development on the lands.
Thank you. Any further questions? Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should email Delaney Leach, indicating which public meeting they wish to be notified on and providing their name and address. Those who don't have access to a computer may phone Delaney Leach at 519-631-4860, extension 286. Any amendment to the bylaw will be considered at a future meeting of our council. This public meeting is adjourned at 6:47. Thank you. This is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment, regarding 14,000 Belmont Road. Does any member council have a disclosure of interest on this proposal? Seeing none. Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting, please?
Mr. Mayor, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 120 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on January 31st, 2024. Notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff, and notice was also posted to the municipal website.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Mr. McClure, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sloan. As has been proposed or presented, this is a public meeting to present the draft official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 1400 Belmont Road. Or 14,000 Belmont Road. Why is this not? There we go, slow. So the draft official plan and zoning bylaw amendment are apply to the lands that are essentially the Belmont Farm Supply at the south end of Belmont. Of note on the screen, the area of the specific official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendments are denoted where that arrow is the back portion of the property. The purpose of the amendments is to permit the proposed construction of a 1,250 square meter warehouse for the purposes of storing seed and fertilizer. Of note, the lands used to be a part of the municipality of St. Thomas as part of their community facility for soccer fields. That at that time, in 2018, the lands were divested and purchased by Belmont Farm Supply with the purposes of expanding their operations in the future. So this brings us to the draft official plan amendment. So being that they used to be part of the community facility lands, and there was a woodlot on the property previously, the official plan amendment is required to change the existing community facility designation and natural heritage designation on the property to commercial industrial. This is the same designations that apply to the balance of the lands for Belmont Farm Supply to the west. So again, it's being consistent with what is already on the property and in the operation. So the amendment itself is purely a mapping amendment, introducing a new schedule, Schedule B, Community of Belmont Land Use Plan, and it's going to change the area shown in heavy solid lines from that community facility and natural heritage to commercial industrial. So as part of that amendment, the location plan again shows, it's hard to see on here, but that back portion identified as the area of the amendment. And then an introduction of a new schedule to the official plan, again showing that change from community facility and natural heritage to that commercial industrial. Then to further facilitate the development, the property needs to be rezoned. Right now, it's a combination of a park and designations and natural heritage designation, or sorry, zone. So the rezoning would include create a new site-specific industrial M2 zone. This would be the same as the M1 zone that applies to the west of the property that was applied for when they did that previous expansion, the large white kind of building that you can see on the screen there right now. So as part of that, again, you can kind of, again, see the area on the map, the kind of rectangular portion of the property itself is the area that was brought in through the purchase of the divested property from the municipality. And then that back portion is where the building itself would be located. So part one of the amendment introduces a new schedule, being Schedule I to the, Schedule 1 to the bylaw, designates the area in heavy solid lines as M2, which can be seen on the screen. And then the second part of the amendment introduces a new subsection to the commercial industrial section of the zone, being 7.2.6.2. Again, identifies the area affected as M2, shown on Schedule A21, provides that the minimum side yard setback on the north side of the property is 1.5 meters. And then again, as we do, is introducing a Schedule 2 to the bylaw, provides a consolidated version of the bylaw that includes all the amendments to date, including this amendment, which is again shown here. And then my cursor was actually going, kind of right around, again, where my cursor is shown on the screen, that's the change on the amendment. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. McClure, quick question. So we made this land surplus and we sold it to Belmont Farm Supply, correct? How many years ago was that?
Back in 2018.
So 6 years ago, and they're now having the zoning changed to make it the same as the rest of their site?
That is correct.
Thanks. Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions on the proposal?
Mr. Mayor, correspondence has been received from Carol Landon and Kevin Landon and Linda Baker. Concerns include noise and dust pollution, lighting, and proximity to residential and recreational uses.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak to this? Is there anyone online that wishes to speak to it, Ms. Leach?
I would ask that anyone online wishing to speak, please unmute. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I believe Kristen is online to speak to the application.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Good evening, Mayor Sloan and members of council. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. We are the agents acting on behalf of Belmont Farm Supply with respect to the proposed application. I'm not going to present anything further. I think Mr. McClure has done a great job providing an overview of what the intended the intent for expansion is on the property and the required planning approvals to facilitate that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also note that Mr. Brad Walker is on the call from Belmont Farm Supply, who can also answer any questions that council may have.
Thanks very much. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Halpin.
Sure, thank you for that. Kristen or Brad, do you guys have any plans right now about how you're going to address things like light pollution?
Kristen or Brad, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the application will be required to go through a subsequent site plan approval process, at which point some of the lighting, where lighting is going to be located on the site, will be documented. We can appreciate the comments from residents. The building that is proposed as part of the expansion has been situated on the property to kind of act as a buffer, if you will, to act as screening between warehousing and delivery uses in the front of the building that would be closest to the rail line, and the existing community uses, the soccer fields and park to the north, as well as the existing residential to the north. They are required to operate within their standards in terms of agricultural use on the site, so dust, noise, lighting, pollution. And I would expect that we would be required to meet the township's requirements with respect to light pollution and light sourcing on the site as part of the site plan application. Brad, Mr. Walker, I'm not sure if you had anything you wanted to add.
No, I think that's terrific, Kristen. That covers it, I think.
Thank you. Councillor Halpin. Follow up? Good. Thank you very much. Any other questions from council? Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should email Delaney Leach, indicating which public meeting they wish to be notified on and providing their name and address, or calling Delaney Leach at 519-631-4860, extension 286. Any amendment to the bylaw will be considered at a future meeting of council. This public meeting is adjourned at 6:57 p.m. This is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw respecting 156 Maud Street. Does any member of council have a disclosure of interest concerning the proposal? Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting, please?
Mr. Mayor, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 120 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on January 31st, 2024. Notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff, and notice was also posted to the municipal website.
Thank you. Mr. McClure, did you want to explain the proposed zoning amendment for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sloan. This is public meeting for 156 Maud Street for a draft zoning bylaw amendment for the property. As can be seen on the screen, the subject lands are shown in the yellow lines on the west side of Maud Street itself. The proposal in the zoning bylaw amendment is to permit the construction of 3 two-story single detached residential dwellings on the property. As we have found in past applications and through the consultation process, we required that a legal opinion letter be provided as part of the application. As we expected, the opinion letter that came back was showing that the 3 lots are registered lots in a plan of subdivision, so they legally exist. As such, the zoning bylaw amendment is being applied to them in light of there being 3 lots, existing lots of record. So for the purposes of just kind of explaining how they are proposed, or the amendment is proposed, or the amendments are proposed, the top residential dwelling is proposed to have a residential driveway on the north side of the property, with the middle lot having a driveway on the south, and then the south property having a driveway on the north. I bring that to your attention, as all of the zoning regulations are more or less identical, other than one specifically that changes the north and south side yard setbacks in order to accommodate the parking on site and to reflect the geometry and location of the proposed buildings. And again, this is proposed at this time a plan for the buildings themselves. Again, with showing that there's a front porch, an enclosed front porch at the front, which will come into the zoning amendment as well, with the main building wall pushed back from the property line. So this brings us to the amendment itself, part one of the amendment being Schedule A to the zoning bylaw and being map part 1CA. And then part two of the amendment designating the area shown in heavy solid lines as R1-94. As you can see on the screen, the north and south lots are that R1-94, and there's a subsequent amendment for the center portion that will be R1-95. This introduces a new subsection to the residential provisions of the bylaw, being that 9.2.2.94 defines that area shown in map part 1CA as that R1-94 has the lot area of 185.8 square meters, lot depth 15.25, lot coverage 52.1, front yard setback being that 3.96 meters to the main building wall, and then the 1 meter for the unenclosed porch, again, to ensure that it remains unenclosed. So for sightline purposes for people coming in and out of the property from the driveway. Side yards, 3.52 meters on the northerly side, 1.2 meters from the southerly side, rear yard 1.2 meters, floor area ratio being that 0.81, and then maximum off-street parking being 2 parking spaces. Again, this was a major consideration through the amendment itself, is given that the substandard size of Maud and Bessie streets, it was to ensure that any redevelopment of the site itself could accommodate parking on the property itself and not further exacerbate some of the parking concerns along Maud and Bessie. Then again, the exceptions to the zoning bylaw, again, there's given Maud and Bessie and their historical nature, there's a lot of exceptions to the general provisions of the bylaw and to allow what's provided. For the amendment, again, introduces on the hatch lines that you saw previously that are R1-95, and then introduces a new subsection after the previous subsection, again, showing, defining that area as that map part on the map part 1CA as that R1-95. Again, same lot area, lot depth, lot coverage, and then the lot frontage, again, ensuring that it's the main building wall that's back, and then the unenclosed porch can be that 1 meter from the front property line. Side yards, again, now being flipped based on the driveway area, and then the 1.2 meters of northerly side yards, 3.5 meters of the southerly. Rear yard 1.2, again, floor area ratio, off-street parking, all the same, and then the exceptions to the general provisions. And then part 6 of the amendment being Schedule B, which it introduces map part 1, which is all of the changes that have occurred to that map part today, including this amendment. We've seen on the screen here. Thank you.
Quick question, Mr. McClure, these houses are separate?
Yes, there can be 3 separate 2-story dwellings.
What's the frontage in feet? I don't have my computer, sorry, but what's the frontage in feet per house?
I believe it's 50 feet, 40 feet. Yeah.
The building is 40 feet?
No, the frontage of the property itself is 40 feet. So again, it goes back to the lots themselves are 40 by 50. Roughly that's what historically they were on the registered plan of subdivision. That's what those lots exist today. That's not a lot size that we would support creating in the future. But it's a historical context of that Maud and Bessie area. And that's why we requested the legal opinion letter to essentially provide that these are existing lots of record. Because if we were going through the purposes or process to further subdivide, because if they had merged, that's not something that staff would support. Because again, there's minimum requirements in the bylaw for a reason. These do not meet the minimums, but it's an existing situation, so we have to figure out a way to address that situation.
Thank you. Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions on the proposal?
Mr. Mayor, correspondence has been received from Janice Daw and Robert Young. Concerns were related to drainage.
Do I have any people, anyone online that wishes to speak to this file? Ms. Leach, please.
Mr. Mayor, there are no virtual attendees.
Is there anyone in the chamber that wishes to speak to this? Is there someone there, Mr. McClure? I'll just hold for a minute. Council, have any questions while we're waiting?
Mr. Mayor, I believe Ian McGuffin would like to speak to the application.
Mr. McGuffin?
Yes, it's Ian and Wendy McGuffin. We own the property at 159 Bessie, which runs through to Mott Street. So we're the property immediately to the north of the proposed development. I'm not sure that I would say I have concerns. I have questions, and tell me if it's not appropriate to raise them or that I can't get answers at this meeting, Mr. Mayor. I guess the big one is we're wondering what plans the owners have for these 3 dwellings once they're constructed. Are they proposing to sell all 3? Are they proposing to live in one and rent out the other 2? Are they planning to rent out all 3 as Airbnb? Certainly in that latter case, if that's what they're doing, we would probably have some concerns about traffic and noise, given that our backyard is right there. I don't know whether they have to announce what their plans are, or we just have to see what happens. We also have a question about whether they plan to put any fencing on the north side of the development. There was a small fence there separating our parking area from the existing or the previous lot. There was also a little bunkie on the property that provided us with some privacy, which has been taken down. We're hoping that their plans are to put fencing on the north side to restore that privacy. We looked at the materials online, but didn't see any indication of that. I guess those are our 2 main questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McClure, does someone want to speak to this? Do we have the proponents here?
Hey, good evening. My name is Victor Anastasi. I am one of the owners of 156 Mod along with my spouse, Anna. So to answer the first question, the proposal going forward for the 3 lots. So the first lot that is to be developed would be principal residence for Anna and myself. We intend to own or occupy. And after the first one is built, the intent is to build the next 2 consecutively at the same time and sell them. We do not plan to rent ours. We do not plan to rent the subsequent 2, and none of the 3 residential homes that are being proposed are being done so for the purposes of Airbnb. For question number 2, as it pertains to the fence, I don't really have any concrete plans at this time. I guess that's something that could be discussed with the neighbor. I like the fence we had before, but it wasn't on the proposal from the get-go.
Thank you. Any other questions?
May I speak again?
One moment, sir. I think there's a person that's, yes, you go ahead, and then I think one of the proponents is coming forward, or the applicant. So Ian, do you want to go ahead, please?
Yes, I appreciate the response from the applicant, and that really answers my question, and we're happy to hear the answer that he gave. And as for my second one, we would be more than happy to discuss with them some possibility for fencing.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I think we're,
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Waz. I own the 156 Mod with my partner, Victor. Just regarding drainage, there's been some concerns because we do know Maud and Bessie are underserviced areas. So as part of the zoning bylaw application, we did go through the process with the stormwater engineer to take into account drainage concerns. We do have an infiltration gallery under the driveway, and it's sized to take into account the building footprint as well as the impervious area of the driveway. We know there's parking concerns in the area, so we specifically made sure the driveway realistically had 2 spots, which is what people tend to have. And in designing the driveway and choosing a surface, we could have gone for something more permeable, and that is potentially something we'll do. But for sizing the infiltration gallery, we did want to be conservative with the materials chosen, because if someone decides to change their mind in a few years and pave it or put in concrete, now your infiltration gallery is undersized. So we sized it to be appropriate to the building footprint and to the driveway area. So I hope that addresses the drainage concerns.
Perfect. Thanks, Ms. Laws. That's great. Are there any other questions? Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any member or person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should email Delaney Leach or call Delaney Leach at 519-631-4860, extension 286, and provide which public meeting they wish to be notified on. Any amendment to the bylaw will be considered at a future meeting of council. This public meeting is adjourned at 7:11 p.m. Thank you.